It's Friday, which means we've got a repeat guest. This guy's a repeat, and maybe more repeats. We got DSP in the house. We're going to talk about food costing cards, prices, promotions, all that good stuff. Be back in a second. Mr. David Scott Peters, fresh off of a rowing season where you got a couple gold medals recently. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, my friend?
I am in air condition, which is better here than probably out there because it's probably like 325 degrees in Arizona right now.
It's going to be at least 107. I didn't pay attention. It could be 114. I don't know. It's hot.
It's hot. So for the audience that doesn't know who David Scott Peters is, can you tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, long and the short of it is I'm a restaurant coach. I've been coaching independent restaurants since 2000 and just almost 20 years now. And literally my job in life is to give you restaurant prosperity, which is freedom from your restaurant and the financial freedom you deserve. I'm the guy that helps you get a life, have a management team in place and systems to execute and allow you to impose your will without being there. It's basically getting back to your dream. You didn't think the restaurant was going to be a prison for you. You hoped it was going to provide for your family, give you time off. Well, that is possible, and that's what I help you do.
I love it. Well, DavidScottPeters.com is the place. I'm going to grab your book off my desk because I meant to bring it in here. So really quick, tell the audience about your rowing escapades lately and a little bit about that.
All right, fantastic. For those of you who don't know, I was a rower in high school, scholarship athlete, D1 college, Northeastern University in Boston. Rowed 8 years of my life, almost 9, and then took 33 years off. And I found my way back to rowing last August. And in that time, I have completely changed my life, found a passion again, and recently came off of spring season with 4 races traveling all over the US and Canada, and it's been a blast, I will tell you that. So if you're missing something in your life, if all you have is your restaurant, you need something else in your life. And I'm living example of it, how not only for your identity, but your health, your wellness, and just happiness. So find something you love and go do it.
It's ironic. I knew you were going to say that. That's why I wanted you to broach the topic, because I know for me personally, when I'm not active, when I'm not moving my blood, getting some vitamin D, putting my feet on the ground, getting in water in the pool, I'm not myself. And it allows me to operate at a much higher volume when I need to in my business.
Yeah, I did what I do every Friday in my private Facebook groups. I do something called Shoot the Shit with DSP.
Yep.
You've been on there a couple times. Today, I even talked about that you've got to take responsibility for your actions. And that's exactly what it is. It's this, and I'd almost say your inactions. So either you do something and you've got a consequence, positive or negative. You don't do something, all you're doing is suffering the consequence of whatever you made a decision or an action you took a long time ago. And some of that is sitting on your ass,
Yep.
which I did. I made every excuse in the world. I'm too busy. I'm traveling,
Yep.
And finally, again, about a year ago, I went, screw this. And I'm so much happier, so much better, but you have to take an action to correct it. You've got to make a decision and take responsibility for yourself. Don't allow excuses to stop you dead in your tracks.
Yeah. All mine was, hell, I was a defensive back in college. And I remember I was 32 and I was running up the stairs of my house and my chest I had man boobs. I was bouncing. I'm like, the hell, man, I used to be ripped. Like, what happened? And I'm like, oh, cheese conies and Mountain Dew and Butterfingers the last 10 years happened. And so I got the book. If y'all don't have it, get it, read it, digest it. Because if you're a restaurant owner, especially an independent restaurant owner, this is the formula you need. And I've witnessed it firsthand because I actually got an email that my team's approving this morning. And one of the last lines of the email said, hey, I'm able to teach this course for you, because I'm doing a webinar starting next Monday for 52 weeks called the Restaurant Recession. And it's not that anything scientific. It's just every week bringing a tip of something you can do to counteract what's going to happen over the next couple of years, like we did the last couple of years, like you should have already been doing. But I put in there, the way I'm able to do this webinar weekly is I've removed myself from the org chart. I don't work in my business anymore. One of my employees like, well, I don't know how that's important. Like, why mention that? I'm like, because I bet 9 out of 10 restaurants are still deeply in the org chart. And they're probably a little envious. And I actually saw Avery, one of our clients recently, Little Italy Pizza up in Groveport, Ohio. And I had never met him. I'd heard a lot of great stuff about his restaurant. And I walked in and unbeknownst to me, he had become a client of DSP. And he said, hey, I got to thank you. I go, What? And he goes, well, the book, you sent David Scott Peters' book to us. I read it. I started working with him. And here I am a couple months later, like I'm working like 4 to 5 hours a week in the business. The rest of it's working on it.
Yeah, he is amazing. Like in a sucks. I guess it was probably at this point we're probably on 8 months. Completely changed his life from being in the business, growing up with his grandfather and his father and everybody working to where he came back and took over and he was working the pizza oven every Friday, Saturday night like nobody else could do it. His sales volumes were something like a quarter of where they are today. His sales volume exploded, and now he just came off of he did a webinar for me 2 days ago.
Okay.
And it was on day 14 of his vacation. Day 14. I mean, how the hell do you do that in under a year? Well, you take action, you decide to change your life. You decide that it is time to change. And there's the formula. Absolutely.
The formula is these 3 words at the bottom. You might think it's restaurant prosperity. I think it's David Scott Peters. So my first question for you today.
Yeah, man.
As you know, I always reach out with my hand out. I need some info. So about 2 months ago, I'm talking to a food rep that I'm friends with who does an amazing job. And he knows one of our restaurant clients because it's also his client. And he goes, Matt, I got a question for you. He goes, yeah. He goes, what's the formula you use to come up with the promotions? Because one of our we have 51 strategies and 13 are packaged in a thing called the customer acquisition formula, where you get customers info and walk with the restaurant. And there's typically an ethical bribe in there, meaning that, hey, click this button, give us your name, your phone number, your email, your birthday, your visit frequency, and we're going to give you a free dessert. And he said, what's your guys' formula for getting those from the restaurant? And I said, well, typically what are some of your best sellers? What are some of your worst sellers? What are some things that need an uplift? Blah, blah, blah. And we kind of put together that. He goes, well, I want to teach you to be better at this because I know this particular restaurant, the item that you're giving away that they're doing a buy one, get one on, they already lose money on. I've been telling them for like a year to change the damn pricing. And for whatever reason, they don't listen. But so they're already losing, let's say $1 every time somebody buys it, which to me, I can't fathom. And now they're giving one away. So now they just lost more money, and they're just going to be telling you in 6 months that their business has gotten worse from that part because that's what they're looking at. So you're talking to Matt Plapp and my team, and we're consulting a client, and also restaurants are listening. How do we pick what item we use to capture customers on that visit?
Well, the unfortunate reality is it's not an easy answer because the first question I would ask that restaurant owner is, do you have accurate, up-to-date recipe costing cards? Okay. And if they don't, they have no freaking idea. Like, your prices change every time a truck delivers. And quite honestly, when you go down and start the path of recipe costing cards, I cannot tell you how many restaurants discover 50, 60, 70% cost of goods sold on an item because they generally know what the protein costs. They generally know what the side costs. Well, you generally ain't making money. Yeah. I mean, name an industry, any other industry, and you were in boats. I mean, when you sold boats, did you stare at a boat and go, $42,000, or did you know exactly what that boat cost you, what you needed to sell that boat for in order to make money? You knew exactly. No other place other than the restaurant industry where you put chef puts a special up in the window and goes right out of their ass, just pulls it out of the air. Oh, $13.95. Who said it was $13.95? Do you know? Well, I generally know. Well, we're an industry of pennies, not dollars. Yep. So you generally ain't making money. So now when we say, let's pick a promo, an item, how do you know if you don't know what something costs? So recipe costing cards are critical. Now, we can fudge it a little bit. With the generally speaking part, you still are going to have to cost out that recipe individually, at least in the big chunks, to know, is it a good cash contributor? Is it with a low food cost, or is it a high food cost item? But the ring at the register is high enough, it's lowering my labor cost. Whole nother topic. Yeah. I would generally say, without recipe cards, you don't freaking know. It's going to be very difficult for your team to even guide someone
because they don't have the formula. And you're right. When we had the boat dealership, we actually went a step farther than what you said. So we got the invoice. We'd have the invoice from Skeeter, Yamaha Marine. Here's what you paid. We then also knew what our carrying cost was. We typically carried a boat 4 to 6 months. So we took the interest from our line of credit, put that in there. And then we put a pack number. I had a number I'd come up with. It was like between $500 to $700, depending on what boat, that this is typically the crap that goes wrong. the customer's late, the cover gets ripped. There's always that. So we always had a buffer, and then we marked it up a percentage, and we ran our business based on that profit margin that we knew what our net profit was going to be, our gross profit after selling the product.
Guess what you just described? A recipe costing card. You had a recipe costing card. You knew every ingredient on that profitability scale, what you needed to cover and what you needed to sell it for to make money. Again, how is it that any restaurant owner can look you or me in the face and go, I don't know why I'm not making money? If they don't know what every item they sell costs, that's crazy.
That is,
but that's about 8 out of 10 operators.
8 out of 10 don't
Easy.
have it.
100, easy, 8 out of 10.
Wow. So it might be advantageous for me and my team when we get these promotions. One, ask that question. And when 8 of 10 tell us they don't, and I would imagine maybe 5 of 10 say, oh, yeah, I got it. And 2 of them are bullshitting us, that we could say, okay, great. Here's our own internal recipe. Do me a favor, fill this out. There's a form, send it back. We want to make sure, because what we don't want to do is drive unprofitable promotions. Because we literally had a restaurant one time tell us, oh, we're losing $5,000 a month since we started. I'm like, how is it possible I drove 500 customers to your restaurant? Because it was foreign to me what you just said. I didn't comprehend that bad of a problem. But how could I drove 500 people in your restaurant? They're going to come back. But at the end of the day, you still sold them something, and you should have some things you're stacking there. But if you're losing money on what I'm giving away, it ain't a good equation.
Oh, absolutely. Again, whether ethical bribe or not, and if everybody has been following you long enough, even I have them in my site. When I give you a special report of something, that's an ethical bribe. I'm giving you something for free. Well, it ain't for free. I want your name, your contact information, so I can put you in my marketing funnel. Well, it's the same principle of what we're doing here. Is if you give away something, a dessert or 50% off or a free appetizer, whatever that may be. The beautiful part about that is you're gaining their contact information. It is worth every penny you pay to put them in. And if you give them a great experience, you can contact them, keep reminding them that you're great. Well, if you start giving away the shop and you're losing money, and then you teach them to buy that because they love it, and you're losing money every time you sell that item, you're truly building a business that's going to hurt you.
Yep.
You have to, as an operator, make it a priority to say, I need to know what everything costs. Now, I'm going to tell you very quickly, Matt, the very first excuse is, I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
you're in the toughest business I know. You must make the time. And oh, by the way, if you've got a good kitchen manager or chef, that's their job, not yours.
Yeah. So, and I'll say the other thing is how I found out how to price our boats better was by doing it wrong. I'll never forget. Well, at one point we had 17 manufacturers, whole other story, different nightmare, but we had 3 bass boat lines, and 2 of them were Triton and Skeeter. Well, Tritons came in from the factory unassembled. We had to put the motors on them. And so we could watch our mechanic billable hours, stack it up, price the boat out regular. Well, Skeeters came in rigged. And so meaning it came put together. And so it was like, cool, we don't have rigging costs. So I remember like our first year of selling Skeeter, I met a consultant, and I've always been open to coaching. I've always looked at and said, you know what? I'm going to spend money on my business to market it financially because I know I have to grow. I'm going to spend time marketing, and I'm going to spend money on experts because there's people that know a hell of a lot more than me, have done, been around the block. And this guy said, hey, I want to have a conversation with you. I know you guys took on Skeeter a year ago. I want to look at your P&L on your Skeeter sales. Okay, cool. I showed it to him. And he knew some things I didn't know, so he was cheating. And he goes, hey, I'm going to show you how you're losing about 80 grand right now selling Skeeters that you're not counting. What do you mean? He goes, well, you're not charging for rigging. I go, yeah, I don't have to. It comes rigged. He goes, did you know the average Skeeter has 4 hours of time your mechanic is spending on it that he's not telling you, that it's not happening at the factory? And did you know it's not coming with the oil in the tank? Did you know this, that, and the other? And I was like, there was things I didn't know. And sure enough, we went back and looked at we were like 6.5 hours. Our mechanics were spending on a boat that was already assembled to fix some of the little nuances the factory worker didn't do to do this. And we had like $80 in like fluids that were going in the boat. And I remember this guy, he had an expert, like you have the expertise in restaurant costing cards. He was an expert on bass boats. And he's like, hey, give me 10 grand. I just saved you 80. You're welcome. And I was like, hell yeah. But we had to learn. So on to my next one was Piggy Backs on this. And this was funny because another rep in the food business told me this story, and I got a kick out of it because I thought it was pretty funny. And it's not funny really, but he said he was at a restaurant that didn't buy from him. and he's there with a friend having lunch. And of course, he's there eating to get visibility with that owner. And the owner walks by and knows me. He says, "Hey, I appreciate the burger. It's awesome, man. The $2. What do you mean? $2? He goes, "Yeah, you just paid me $2 to eat this." What? What are you talking about? He goes, "Well, this burger," and he mentioned like the farm it was from, I guess, whatever company, and you know what it was. He goes, yeah, yeah. He goes, "The bun, to plate it, all your," he said, "this right here, is about a 895 cost, and you just sold it to me for whatever it was." And he's like, "So you just paid me money to eat your burger?" He's like, "This should be on a low end, a $12, $13 burger, probably on a normal end, 15 to 16." And that comes back to what you're talking about, costing cards. And that would scare the crap out of me if I was a restaurant and I was guessing at that level and my food rep or a food rep could point that out like that.
Well, I'll tell you. So first of all, we already covered that you got to have recipe cards.
Yep.
And we've got excuses why we don't do it. Again, let's go back to taking action and changing, take responsibility for your action and interactions. So let's say you make that shift and you want to change. Well, a lot of restaurants are also fearful to raise their prices. Yep. Now, there is a blessing curse that happened with COVID. The blessing was, as an industry, we went, holy shit, and we raised our prices. And over the last 2.5 years, between COVID, the labor shortage, and now recession/inflation, we've raised our prices faster than we ever have in the past because you saw it on your invoice, not just a little blip, like a major, holy crap, when chicken wings went up 300%, brisket, all this went boom. You went, oh my gosh. Well, without recipe cards, all you were doing was treading water. You were raising your prices because you saw it cost you more, but no real understanding. And the challenge is a couple things. People are still afraid to raise their prices, especially now because we're reaching a level where what I'm charging may not be the value that's on a plate. So we've got to think not just recipe costing cards in the sake of, can I make money? But you've got to understand menu mix and whether you need to change some of your menu items. What do I mean? Well, there's a concept or a true thing called ideal or theoretical food costs, what your food cost should be, not some national average you saw on a TV show, 3 times markup, which is bullshit. National Restaurant Association says an average full service restaurant runs about a 34% food cost. You ain't average. Yep. Like, think about where you're located, your price point, your style of service, your quality of product, your core values. We're going to balance out differently. And it also ties back to your budget in something called prime cost, which is total cost of goods sold, plus total labor costs, including taxes, benefits, insurance. Well, in the old days, that key number was 65% for a full service restaurant, 60% for quick serve. And ever since 9/11, when everything changed in the restaurant business and our world and our culture, we can't use that number anymore. So now a 65% has become 55%. If you do $850,000 or more a year in sales, 55. That means on $1 million business, I'm telling you, there's 10 points on the table or $100,000 in bottom line profitability. No get rich or marketing that you do. It's just operations, how you handle your product, purchase it, utilize it, bring people in, and so on, and schedule them and send them home. So now with that in mind, we could have a higher food cost and poor cost and a lower labor cost, or we can reverse it. So you've got to know where you are based on all these criteria. But when we get to the menu itself, we make it to a point where now with $15 minimum wage on either side of the country, and now with the labor shortage, people are now paying $18, $20 an hour for a cook that they were freaking out about $15 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, holy shit. And then they start seeing their invoices go up and they want to blame their broadline distributor. Oh, you're screwing me. It's 5 cents more a pound of cheese. It ain't the broadline distributor's fault. Yep. It's your fault. Because if all of a sudden I have accurate, up-to-date recipe costing cards, I know what I sell the item for before discounts, and I've got my product mix, PMix report from my POS system, I put those together based on what my customers actually purchase. I know what my food costs should be. So let's say I've got items that are 38% food costs, some that are 19%, and based on the mix and what people buy, maybe my ideal food cost is 30%, just for a big, fat, hairy number.
Yeah.
Do you know, by the way, that a typical restaurant runs 7 to 9 points above their ideal? It ain't the distributor. Yeah, they're waste, theft, spoilage, mismanaging their kitchens. But with that said, a rock star's 2 points. Let's say you're 2 points over and you're doing awesome. But because your labor costs so high, we've got to start driving our food costs down into the mid to low 20s. And that means we now need to look at our menu and say, of these items, maybe I can raise the price 1, 2, 3 items in the top of each. Maybe I've got to get rid of items that are upside down. Maybe I've got to reimagine a dish, order smart, like take all my chicken and promise it to one purveyor to get a better price to reduce the cost. Flip it out, whatever it may be. Like all these things, menu engineering, all these things are on the table, including maybe having to change things up to a point where a lot of restaurants now are going to have pizza, flatbreads, pasta. They're going to have saute kind of things that we can throw in a pan, go real quick, that high perceived value, but are lower cost, and I can charge for it. And as operators, how can you get there if you don't have recipe costing cards? Otherwise, you're like this example. You could literally be selling things, the wrong things, and go out of business, but you want to blame the purveyor, and it ain't their fault.
Yeah. I had one the other day, and this is a different topic. Give me your opinion on this one. I think it's kind of funny. So I don't drink, and I try to avoid soft drinks, even though I did have a Mountain Dew today for lunch. So I apologize, the soft drink gods. But my go-to occasionally is a sugar-free Red Bull. And I don't pay attention to the price. Like I've paid $7 at a restaurant for it. Whatever, I'm drinking it. It is what it is. And I bet I'd say on a low, probably 1 out of every 3 restaurants I go to, I'll say, hey, do you guys have sugar-free Red Bull? No, we don't have it because all the employees drink it. And I'm like, so you just lost money because I couldn't give you $8 for a stupid dollar drink you paid $2 for. I mean, that's dumb, but you don't have systems in place to eliminate them from drinking a Red Bull? Like, give me a break. Like, that's the stupidest excuse, in my opinion, to not have sugar-free Red Bull. Am I right or wrong?
100%. I mean, there's a system, a process, a way to doing anything and everything, whether it's behind the bar or in the kitchen. There are 2 clipboard systems everybody should have. One is a key item tracker where we track the items, how many we started with, how many we stock, how many we end with, and go to the POS system and see that they match. Yep. And I can put Red Bull on that. And when you do that is you keep honest people honest, because I will nail whoever's took it because I know who's working, I know who's responsible, and they go, oh, maybe I'll get caught. I won't steal. I'll keep honest people honest. Waste sheets to see that maybe we're opening them up and we're dumping them because we made a mistake. And well, I can train somebody. I can buy less. I can move the procedure around and come up with a new system on how we get it to the table. Like there's ways. It means we're lazy. Yeah. We're lacking management and systems. And the truth of the matter is, if you want things done your way, you have your system, your process, your way. You've got to train people what their job is, how to do it, how well it should be done, more important by when. But more importantly, I've got to hold them accountable, which means there needs to be a plainclothes manager on every shift ensuring the process is working. So when you, in your example, it is asinine to go, oh my gosh, I'm going to stop selling desserts. I'm going to stop selling salads. I'm going to stop selling soup. I'm going to stop selling all these things that servers are responsible for because they steal. Yeah. Who taught them to steal? You, by not putting systems in place and managers to inspect them.
I'm glad you said it. That was what went through my mind when the guy left. We were recently at a BJ's Brew House. And that's what he told me. And he left, and I looked at my wife, and I'm like, well, he's going to get rid of everything else because I'm sure they're eating chocolate chip cookies. They're probably eating wings here and there. They might grab a side salad. I'm like,
oh, hell, what are they giving behind the bar?
Yeah. How many extra shots, a little overpour. But it's funny. I hear that specifically about Red Bull and Monster all the time. Because I'll ask, what do you have sugar-free energy drinks? They're like, nothing. I'm like, that's just like my vice. Like, I don't want to I don't drink alcohol and I don't want to get a Coke, but sugar-free Red Bull I can put it in a glass with ice and it makes it look like I'm an adult. And I'm like, hey, look, I got something. But
I've been doing this for a long time. I've grown up in this business 30 plus years. And in the old days, it was sweet street desserts. It was cigarettes behind the bar. I mean, just replace it with whatever. It's all creating a culture where the details matter, that, you know what, we run legit. We do things a certain way. We treat everybody the same way. We inspect it and everybody follows it. If not, when you don't pay attention, you teach people to steal. You actually teach them to steal because they're long timers that steal. And then the new people who are like, oh, I don't want to do that. And they're like, hey, you're missing out. This is what we do here. Management doesn't say a damn word. It's what we do here. And all of a sudden, honest people become dishonest because that's the culture. Yeah. That's what we do here. And that's really what happens.
That's awesome. I appreciate your insight there. So The book, if you don't have it, it's not my fault because we give it to people all the time. You need to get off your butt, go buy it, or call me or call DSP and get a copy. And then is this the best place for them to come swim in your ocean and consume your knowledge?
Yeah, I think, look, if you want to learn more about what I do, certainly come to davidscottpeters.com. If you want to circle around and, you're not ready to give me your name and the stuff and opt in for a free course I have, go to my YouTube channel, David Scott Peters. I post weekly tips. Listen to my podcast, The Restaurant Prosperity Formula, comes out every other week. Like, there's lots of places to find free information and learn who I am and find out whether you identify with me. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not right for everybody. I like to think I am. This is my personality. I am consistent this way. Matt will tell you, I've been in his office. We've traveled together. We've spoken together. Like, this is it. Like, if you don't like this kind of passion, you don't like to be pushed a little bit, I'm not the right guy. But if you want to change your life and you're willing to take action and you've got a growth mindset, I'd love for you to look me up at davidscottpeters.com and opt in at the top or upper right-hand side and, get a call, take my free course and get on a call with us.
And there's his YouTube channel and puts great YouTube videos out, puts content all the time. Email, I think at least once a week. I got an email yesterday. I watched the video, check that out. But the big thing which cracked me up, you said there is if you're not willing to put your email in for a free course, like, dude, if you just listen to what this guy said and you're not willing to put your email, your cell phone, your social, and like your wife's birthday, then you're on drugs. Like, give the guy your information, take the free course, dive into the book, because this is just a snippet. This is just 2 questions that some random marketing guy had. And if I had these questions, imagine the questions you can answer for an operator who is probably losing 10 points right now. They shouldn't be.
Amen. I appreciate you very much, my friend.
Hey, I appreciate it, Mr. David Scott Peters. Continued success on the rowing. I know my guy Schlatter got to see in Philly. I can't wait to see you next year. I look forward to it.
Cheers. Appreciate you very much and hope everybody goes out there and kick some ass.
Kick some ass, baby. Have a great weekend.
Peace.